All right, Jake, what do you say? We take it to the max. Thank you so much for being here. So, you are Jake Vermillion. You are the CMO with Mortgage Champions. Do me a quick favor for anyone who has been living under a rock, who is not familiar with who you are. Give me a little bit of background about yourself.
Well, sure thing. Well, first of all, LaDonna, thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here. These conversations are so powerful. I've listened to several of them. Like, I get so much out of these. You're one of the best in the business
Oh,
at
thank
doing this.
you.
I don't normally get nervous for these kind of things, but I know how much of a professional you are at this, and so I like dressed up nice, got a little nervous, but no. Uh, my name is Jake. You haven't been living under a rock if you haven't heard of me, but you may have been living under a rock if you haven't heard of my dad, Dale Vermillion. He's been in the industry for 42 years, speaking, training, consulting for 30 years. This is our 30th anniversary as Mortgage Champions. We're one of the go-to sales training solutions in the space. Have been fortunate to work with 800 clients, trained over 1.5 million loan officers, had a wide footprint in this business. And, we live and die by our motto, which is others first. So the
Mhm.
style of sales that we teach is it's putting your customer first, putting your partners first, putting your colleagues first. It's understanding how you can grow your business by helping other people grow first. So we're fortunate to see some great results. We've had lots of Scotsman's Guide the top 100 producers. Literally work with the largest retail lender in the space right now, and are even fortunate to be able to work with like a Champanosian's team, for example. And that guy does more business than all of us combined at this point. So pretty cool. My everyday is pretty wild. The people I get to
Ah,
spend time with.
that's that's amazing. That's amazing. And you truly deserve all of the success that you have found and everything that's come your way. You are so kind and such a wonderfully sincere person. So, for anyone who gets the chance to meet you in real life, I highly advise it. Take the opportunity because you really are just a warm, friendly. You are exactly that. You can tell that you put others first, and that truly shines through. So, thank you. Thank you
Thank you
for
for saying
being
that.
here. Thank you for your kind words. We are chatting today because we actually are co authoring a book that's coming out here very soon. October 15th will be the launch date. It's one of the books in the Rethink series. I know so many people are familiar with the Green Book or the White Book, right? And we have our own that's coming out that Lindsay Meyer and Liz threw together. They gathered all of us authors, co authors together, and away we've gone with it. So it's going to be Rethink Everything You Know About Networking. You are a true embodiment of networking in motion. And just that master class of what people should be doing, how they should be better leveraging their networks. So, I want to talk to you about a couple of things. One, you use the phrase building a network, not a following frequently. I know that this is something that you you embody. You really do. And so, what do you think is a distinguishing principle between the two that really people should be following, especially right now? I think it's easy for people to convolute them
Mm.
because we are so reliant on social media metrics, follower counts, etc. So, how do you approach building a network, not a following?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for all those kind words. I think about some of the people like yourself who are in this book, who I would say are really the master classes in networking. And I'm not sure I quite belong, but I'm honored to have been asked. And hopefully, my chapter shed a little light on how you can do this well, right? And what really even is a network to your question. I think the main difference between like what's a person in your network versus a follower ultimately, if you're trying to attract them, it's to serve yourself. If you're trying to add people to your audience, it's in your network, you're trying to serve them, right? So it's a one-way street versus a two-way street. I think in business, if you really want to be able to grow, you have to build two-way streets. It can't just be a one-way
Mm.
street. So that's the baseline of what I would say is, how do you know whether or not you're chasing followers, or trying to build a network? Even just look at what is it that you're measuring, right? One question I like to ask people when they're thinking about this, of like, well, what is it that I'm trying to do when I'm on LinkedIn or Instagram, or I'm at a conference or whatever that looks like. Um, the, the question I like to ask people is, who is the last person you connected with? And the reality is, for most of us, we honestly can't even remember, because there's some sort of dopamine hit that happens in our brain where we just celebrate the fact that we have a new connection, or we have a new follower on Instagram, or whatever it is, right? Or, we shook a hand or had an offline conversation, or, at a conference, whatever that looks like, right? And so I would challenge you, if you can't honestly answer the question of like, who are the last, let alone who's the last person, who are the last 5 people, right, that you connected with online, for example, then your motives, are more geared towards, and it's natural, right? Because all of us, we grew up with social media, or we've been indoctrinated by it. We all want the bigger follower counts, the friend counts. But challenge yourself. If you can't answer that question seriously, what is your actual motivation in approaching these platforms? And how can you begin to shift your thinking towards these platforms so that you can actually begin to build a powerful network and not just a following? Followings, unless you're monetizing views, they're not really all that useful for you in the business. And for most people listening to this, they're probably not monetizing their views, right? So
Right.
how do you actually make your connections online and off powerful, turn them into a network? And really what I would say there is, make it so that you can knock on their door, right? You can send them a text, you can give them a call, you can send them a DM, and that they're actually going to respond. If you haven't built that first name basis and that open door of trust, then they're not someone you can really think about as being part of your network. Maybe part of your sphere of influence, right?
Sure.
But not
But
part of your network. That's
you're
the crucible.
right. You're right. There is such a distinction between that. And I love the point that you made of, can you knock on their door? Because you're right. If you can do that, that's a true connection. And as you were asking that and pointing out the difference of who was the last person that you connected with, I'm instantly transported back to the most recent flight that I was on 2 days ago, and had this connection conversation with the gentleman next to me, who turned out to be one of the most fascinating people I've ever connected with. This 82-year-old entrepreneur who was just so unbelievably cognizant
Mm,
and thoughtful in his approach, and the way that we were able to, he's has a cybersecurity startup company, and the way that we were able to have these very succinct conversations about the connections between what he does and what I do, and the difference in our networks, but the way that we could kind of overlap and connect with each other to support each other. Maybe not us do business per se together, but
sure.
to support each other.
Absolutely.
Just today, right before we jumped on here, received an email from him with some follow up items of things that we had discussed.
Love it.
And to me, it's exactly that of, he is knocking on my door
And you're going to answer.
and I'm going to answer.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
and it's a name that you remember, right? And every follower that we pick up on an Instagram, every connection we add on a LinkedIn, every person that we bump into at a conference, they're not always going to be connections, or you're necessarily immediately connections, right? And that's
Right.
okay. Like, it's good to have someone in your sphere that you can revisit that at some point. But that really is the
Absolutely.
difference. Like, you remember that conversation with him. There's now follow up and action. You guys exchange contact information so you could even continue the conversation. That's the bar that we're trying to reach when we think about who's in my network and how can I grow it intentionally to not just be valuable for my business, but also to put myself in a position to be in this business for the long haul. I think that's another
Mhm.
key aspect of this, right? Is this idea of longevity. It's not just about what someone can do for you now, or even what you can do for someone else now, but what can someone do for you perhaps in the long run, and how can you continue to serve that
I
long
think
into the future?
I love that. And I think that there is a misconception of, I've added this person, I need to figure out how we're going to synergistically play off of each other right now,
Mm.
rather than looking at it in the long term. What do you think are some other misconceptions that people have when it comes to networking?
Yeah, I think people treat it as checking the box in a lot of
Mm,
situations, right? It's just a matter of showing up. The reality is, I kind of followed some of the tried and true advice around networking for a long time, and it worked for those vanity metrics, right? I built up to,
mm,
10,000 plus followers on LinkedIn and whatever else. But the reality is, when you're chasing those vanity metrics and you're just checking boxes of, did I post something on a platform today? Did I attend enough conferences in a given year? Did I go to my local chamber? Did I shake enough hands? Whatever that is, right? What you're actually doing is you're giving yourself a cop out to not do the hard thing, and the hard thing is to find a real connection, to have a conversation that goes longer than you intended for it to, and you don't actually speed date the room. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
so I would say for people listening to this, set aside some of that traditional advice that you're going to get around networking where it makes you check a box, right?
Yeah.
Go in with an intentionality and be okay to make one really great connection, even if nothing, to your point, happens synergistically right then and there. Be okay with that versus having to go and shake a certain number of hands, hand out a certain number of business cards, visit a certain number of booths, add a certain number of followers on a platform in a given month, you name it. So yeah, just stop checking the box and look for those real
So
connections.
good. So good. And that leads me perfectly right into my next question of how do you balance maintaining your authenticity in a world that does feel like it promotes consumption, sometimes over quality? Because I've been there myself of getting into these modes and thinking, okay, here's what I need to do. Here's how I need to grow my following on these various platforms. And
Yeah.
I get posting and I get really good with how frequently I'm posting, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden I'm looking at my posts and I'm like, "Why am I even posting this?" I feel like I've lost my voice. I feel like I'm just posting just for the sake of posting. And then I back way off, and a lot of times I kind of hermit out for like a month because I just have to recenter myself to really discover my authentic voice again.
Yeah.
So how do you balance staying authentic while also staying relevant?
Yeah, it's a great question. And first and foremost, good on you for just having the willingness and the courage to hermit out. I think we all need to do
I
that from time to
do.
time. It's
Sometimes
okay.
for too long.
Well, but you're here in the what game are you playing? Are you playing the short game or the long game? Right?
It's a long game for
Yeah.
sure.
It's okay to take some of that rest to play the long game. And yeah, you're never gonna make it long term in any business, let alone this business, if you lose that center of who you are, so and you lose that authentic voice. For me, honestly, what it is it's again kind of setting aside the traditional advice and thinking about things in a different way. And I know this might not sound related to the question, but let's start here and we'll work our way back to the
Yeah,
question of how do you
please.
how do you continue that authenticity. One of the things that I've learned in my networking journey, especially online, is that we're all, for the most part, when we're chasing these vanity metrics, we're looking for followers and not a networking. We are playing the algorithm game, right?
Mhm.
And so we're adopting the influencer approach of it's got to be content first. We create content, then people will see the content, they'll engage with the content, that will grow my following, and then we just keep the cycle going, right? Well, the reality is none of us can peer into the black box of the algorithms, and I would even go further and say, nor should we want to, right?
Right.
I think we should want to get outside of being contained in how we grow our network and our following. We don't want to be under or subservient to how they choose to tailor the algorithms, right? So, what's the way that you get around the algorithm in terms of building your network? Well, it's not worrying about posting and who sees what you post. It's determining who it is that you want to have a connection with and going out and intentionally seeing the content that they post and engaging with it. Does
Ah,
that make sense?
yeah.
The algorithm can determine who's going to see my content. It can't tell me whose content I'm going to go out and see. Make sense?
Ooh, I love that. And I saw, oh, I wish I could remember exactly who it was who posted it the other day, but it hit me so hard. Um, they were like, "Hey, if you feel like whenever you open your social media, you're just getting depressed, just know that your algorithm is a direct mirror of what you are watching and what you are searching for and what you're interacting with.
It's
So
true.
if you want to shift it, it's incumbent on you to shift it." And that to me carries the exact same principle of you should be taking a proactive approach as to who you are following, who you are interacting with. Allow that for you and allow the people who want to follow you through the same process. So fabulous.
So
Fabulous advice.
well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad it resonates. So we start there, right? First, we
Mhm.
build the list of the people that we know we want to have relationships with. And we go out and we don't rely on the feed because they may not show up on our feed. Because again, like the feed is determined by the algorithm. We go out and we go directly to their profiles and we see what it is that they're talking about. And we're going to have more of an authentic voice when you're like trying to film yourself or write a piece of content. You're trying to serve all these different people and you're posting your own profile, or when you're just leaving a comment on something that resonated with you.
Mhm.
100% of the time, you're going to be more of your authentic self when you're commenting on content that resonates with you, right? And
Yes.
so I think to maintain that authentic voice, and honestly, even to solve the problem of what do I say when I do need to go post, because you do need to post, you can't be a ghost online.
Mhm.
Go to those people that you want to build relationships with, or people that you already have relationships with and trust. Scroll through their content, find something that resonates, leave a thoughtful comment. That's going to percolate ideas in your mind all day long. And then that's what you're going to go back and then post about, right? And it's beautiful too, because if you're trying to cultivate relations with these people and you leave a thoughtful comment first, not just a, hey, great video,
Yeah.
hey, enjoyed this, or even worse, just react and don't comment at all, right? Because
Mhm.
every platform tells you when someone comments on your content, they just give you a number of how many people liked or loved or whatever it is your post, right? You don't see
Right.
names. So if you want people seeing your name and getting familiar with you, you have to comment. You can't just react or engage with their post, right? But so they
Yeah.
see a thoughtful comment and they go, wow, that was really nice. And then 2 days later, they see you post your own post saying, hey, I've been thinking about this. And John over here made an amazing point about this 2 days ago. And they're like, who is this person? Why? They're like my number one fan right now. What's going on with
Yeah.
this? And next thing you know, instead of you having to outbound and send those DMs yourself, right? And try to slide into the inbox, like you're getting those DMs coming to you and they're like, hey, who are you? What do you do? Can we talk? It just totally
Yes.
changes the nature of the conversation and where the starting point is of that relationship, and it puts you in a position to be able to one, tell your story, and then two, actually have an opportunity to demonstrate how it is that you do what you do because you've already built some trust and some relationship with that individual.
It is that service mind first. And it may sound trivialized to refer to that as service, but it is. It's
Absolutely.
having that service mind of I'm not coming to you and asking you for anything. I'm coming to you to engage with you, to be social, to just open up a conversation, open up a dialogue, not asking for anything. Let's just have this interaction, this flow together. And that does serve a purpose and it leads with that service first. So I love that advice. I think that that is fantastic. Where do you really measure and how do you garner the success of your networking? What's a metric that you feel like speaks to you for measuring that success?
Yeah, it's going to sound really old school. Phone numbers.
Really?
Phone numbers. If you've become a contact in my phone, I know that
Oh,
we got
okay.
something real. Um, so the fact that I can text someone says it all to me personally.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say
No,
that
that's
that's requisite
great.
for things that fall in place. I mean, I've DM'd people on a LinkedIn, I've bumped in people at a conference, and we've ended up partnering or doing business together or building a good relationship. We see each other all the time on the conference circuit, that sort of thing. But lately, yes, the more that I think about it, the more that I, ask myself the question of who is it that, again, I can knock on their door and I'm confident I'm going to get an answer, and I know that they can knock on mine if they can
Mhm.
text me, and if I can text them, makes all the difference in the world, in my opinion.
You're right. You're right. You're so spot on. What do you do by way of follow-up? Like, what is your preferred methodology when you know that you've had a great connection with someone? How do you then follow up?
It depends on what is their preference. LinkedIn, in our industry at least, is becoming more of a preferred channel, which is great because I'm super active on it. So
Mhm.
it's not uncommon for a first follow up to be a message on LinkedIn or multiple messages on LinkedIn. What I like to get to though is a true cup of coffee over a Zoom, right? Let's
Yeah.
get face to face as best we can. If we can do it in person, even better. If I know that you're going to be at the same conference I'm going to be at, try and do it there. But barring that, it's getting face to face, 15 minutes, no agenda whatsoever. All I try to do, and doggedly, I almost try to avoid answering questions about who I am and what we do. And I just flip it back into a question on who are they and what do they do and why do they do it and how do they do it and how long have they been
Service
doing it?
first, service
100%. Yeah.
first.
Well, I mean, but the reality is, yeah, I can't understand how I can be a support system to you, beneficial to you, let alone how you can be beneficial to me if I don't understand who you are and what motivates you, right? So I think I'm best served, and they're certainly best served by taking that approach. And I've also found that if you can actually genuinely add value to someone, even and it doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be something as simple as you know someone who's like-minded or who does something that they know they need, and just
Mhm.
making a warm introduction, to someone to say, hey, look, this is someone I trust. I would not recommend this person to you if I didn't. People they put a lot of weight on that, even if nothing ends up happening, right?
Right.
They don't end up making a decision. There's no partnership. There's no business, whatever that looks like. For you to have gone out of your way to say, "Hey, I remember you saying that you were thinking about this. Here's someone who's walked on that road before. I think they could give you some great advice. I'd love to just make an introduction." Huge. Goes a long way.
I totally agree, and I think that's an underutilized area for sure. I think people kind of get a little, well, twofold. I think people get a little apprehensive because they worry a little bit that if they introduce someone and it doesn't work out, it's going to reflect back on them, and then natural apprehension stems from that. I think people have to push past that and understand that sometimes you line people up on a blind date and they don't fall in love, right? It's okay. It's better to have made the introduction and let them take it from there because like you said, at least then you are you're letting them know that you were thinking of them, that you heard the conversation that you had, and that it connected different points with you. And that really makes people seem heard and seen and understood. And I think going back to your asking questions first mentality, I think that is so brilliant. I think so many people are afraid to ask questions. And I think that they think it will make them look uninformed or like they don't have a thorough grasp on a various part of the industry. And so instead, they kind of just keep swimming through a little bit blindly rather than just sitting down and saying, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I don't totally understand your business. Guide me through it. The amount of people that I've had conversations with that we're like multiple meetings down the road where all, and I say meetings like meeting, connecting at a
Yeah,
conference,
yeah.
right? Where they'll be like, okay, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't really know what you do for a living. I just know I see you everywhere. And I'm like, that's okay. That's okay.
Exactly.
Let's talk about it. I would rather that you ask me so that we can have that open dialogue. So I think that that is so great. That is fantastic advice. How do you see networking evolving over the next few years? I think post COVID, there were a couple of adjustments that so many people made. We're now well outside of that time frame, and I feel like we're kind of going through a natural inflection point again. What do you see happening going through the future?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think there's going to be a resurgence, in popularity of face-to-face, in-person networking.
Mhm,
I mean, just be honest. I think people have been cooped up for a long time, and they're
mhm.
they're beginning to really feel the effects of that. I think there's so much AI generated content on the platforms that had kind of become the networking flows, the new town halls,
Yeah.
that people are going to wear out on that. And the reality is, I think it's going to subtly become a reality in our minds as humans that unless I'm in person with you, I don't really know if it's you that I'm actually talking to.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yes. We crave that true connection. And I think you're right. I think AI has done a fabulous job of getting advice out there on a faster basis. But at the same time, it's kind of set off our like bullshit meters, right? Where all of a
rightly
sudden I'm
so.
like, oh, I scroll right by it now because it just it doesn't hit me the same way as watching someone who is actually presenting the information, and how quickly my eyes have evolved to AI generated content versus actual human content.
Yeah.
And I think you're so right. That's a point that I double down on a lot in our classes. Naturally, live events are so much of what I do because I believe in the power of being in a room together. And I talk about this a lot, about the loneliness epidemic that so many people are going through, where it's never been easier to connect to other people, but at the same time, we've never been further removed from people.
That's well said.
And
Sad, but well
it's
said.
so, yeah, it's heartbreaking, but it's so true. And I think you're right. I think innately we want to return back to that. We are pack animals. We belong in a pack. So it only makes sense that we would naturally want to get back to that sphere.
I think it's true, and I think even as the technology progresses, I mean, you're gonna be talking with video AI agents, that
Mhm,
are in real time, and so I think there just will become a natural distrust of even video in real time.
mhm.
If it's online, if it's digital, I think people are gonna question, "Who is it that I'm actually talking to, and how sincere is what they're saying?" And you also just miss out on all of the things that make us human and that draw us to one another. You see someone
Right.
at a conference and they're just exhausted because it's been a super long conference, and they're a little bit more transparent than maybe they normally would. They're not quite as
Mhm.
polished, and that's like something that it shows you a side of them that you wouldn't otherwise see on a LinkedIn or an Instagram or on a stage from a
Yes.
conference. And it's what actually really endears you to that person. Like, they've already proven they're an
Yes.
expert or a professional or whatever it is, but now you get to meet the human side of them truly.
Oh, I
um,
love that. You're
I
so
think people
right.
crave that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I actually just had connected with a woman. We had interacted a few times. She had watched a lot of my content, had reached out to me. We had had a phone conversation, and then we actually had a chance to meet in person last week. And I got the loveliest follow up email where she was like, "The LaDonna that I've gotten to know online was the same LaDonna that I got to meet in person. And I wanted to
Wow.
tell you how much that meant to me."
Yeah.
And I was like, "How much that meant to you? How much that means to me?" But you're right, there is something about when you get people at a layer removed component of themselves that all of a sudden you can really feel that. Nothing cracks me up more than meeting someone in that kind of post-conference space where they're just worn out and they've been walking 20,000 steps a day, and they kind of just collapse, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so nice to finally meet you." And they're like, "Yeah, you too. Can I sit down? My feet are killing me." And you're like, "You know what? Mine too. Let's take our shoes off together." And how fun those interactions can be. With the book being so close to coming out and this compilation of so many different authors coming together, I know that you went through. Have you read everyone's chapter in the book? I
I have.
thought so. I thought so. What what are you walking away knowing now, and what do you hope others walk away in reading it?
That's such a great question. So I would say what I was surprised by was how different every chapter is. So if you buy the book, you're going to get a totally different take and flavor and story with every chapter. It's not just the same thing over and over, which makes it really fun to be able to read all
Yeah.
the different chapters. But like there are underlying principles that gird all of them. You didn't have
Mm.
anyone who was saying it's all going to be online, or anyone saying it's all going to be in person. You know what I mean? You didn't have anyone saying like, you got to make it all about yourself, and you got to come with your 30-second elevator pitch, and you got to just jam it down people's throats. It's like it was all the same idea of you got to be able to do both. You have to have a presence online. You have to have, obviously, you have to be around in person. And the person that you're in each of those situations, to the point, the story you just shared, it has to be the same person, right?
Mhm.
People will sniff out that authenticity immediately. It's like the BS-o-meter that you said about AI
Mhm.
content versus what you would actually write if you wrote it yourself. It's like
Yes.
people are really good at sensing that difference. And so I was taken aback by how universal some of the underlying truths were about what makes effective networking, what makes a person who's a great networker. And it's these simple truths, which is that you have to be yourself. You have to know what it is that you're about. You have to be, clear in what you want out of a relationship with someone, and you have to be willing to give before you get. If you just do those simple things, worry less about all the checklists of showing up online and posting so many times and doing whatever it is. Like just commit to being that person and operating in that way, and you're going to grow your network, even if it's with the people who are already in your sphere of influence. You might not add a single follower on every of your platforms or venture out to any new conferences or any of those things, but you will make more meaningful and deeper connections with the people you already have an opportunity to connect with. And it will change not just your business, but also your life. So it
Oh,
was an honor reading all these chapters. I can't wait for people to get their hands on the book.
so good. I can't wait either. I haven't gone through and read them intentionally because
Yeah,
I
I love
wanted
it.
to get the book and I want to be just as surprised and like learning with the people who are learning at the same time as me. So I
Awesome.
cannot wait to read it. I'm so excited. A couple of just quick wrap up questions for you. If you could go back and tell your younger professional self one piece of advice that you have learned about networking today, what would it be?
Oh gosh. Play the long game. Play the long game. Don't put too much stock in first impressions. Honestly,
Love
um,
that.
the number of people that my first impression of a person was whatever it was, and now I've been to 20 different conferences with them over the years, and I've seen them in all kinds of different situations. And what I thought of them based on what I thought of them based on that first
Mhm.
interaction versus what I know about them today, totally different. So
Oh,
play the
so
long
good.
game, be patient, and don't put too much stock in those first impressions.
Oh, so good. What is a habit or routine that you consistently practice to stay connected and engaged with your network?
Yeah. Can I give you two?
Please.
All right. Well, we've already talked about one, so this will be quick. Comment like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Post at least 15 comments before you take time to write a post. Um,
Okay.
it will one, it'll make your day better because you actually get to engage with so many great thoughts by people in our industry, and you learn like who's really like saying meaningful things versus maybe people who are just sort of blustering or doing the AI content or whatever.
Yeah. Yes.
But then secondly, your online profiles, and some allow you to do this, some don't. I'm going to speak to LinkedIn because it's basically where I live.
Same.
um,
Same.
it tells you who visits your profile.
Mhm.
I treat that just like someone stopped by my house, right?
Mm.
And so I check that religiously. I try to check it, and it's probably not every day, but certainly every week. And I always follow up with every person who I'm not directly connected with who took the time to stop by, right? And it's been
Love
amazing the
that.
number of conversations and connections that have come out of just being faithful to follow up and say, "Hey, look, I saw you stop by. That means a lot to me." Tell me about
I
yourself and how can I help you?
love that. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone, and
Oh,
now,
okay.
everyone gets to hear it. One tip slash trick that I've learned about myself, when you say comment like a crazy person, when I've had a glass of wine, I'm like, "I'm going. Here goes nothing." And I'll just jump in there and just start commenting left and right. And it's kind of that little hint of inhibition is just relinquished a little bit. I'm obviously still all there, but I've eased up a little bit because I'm such an analytical person and I love to maintain my self of control. But if I can just jump on there really quickly and release that just a little bit, all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm engaging with everyone and it's coming from the heart, and they really are removed from any type of filtering that normally I would kind of put myself through. And it works like a charm. It works like a charm. So
I
if you
love
ever
that.
see me on there and I've gone through and I've commented on like 20 things, you're gonna be like, all right, I know what LaDonna did.
I love that. And look, here, this is a truth that is also powerful. You can challenge without being confrontational, right?
Hmm.
And you can be
Yes.
confrontational without actually challenging. And
Yes.
so I would push you to be the former and not the latter, right?
Hmm.
Because that can
Hmm.
actually suss out some of the best conversations you're ever going to have and create really deep connections. But if you come in confrontational and whether or not you actually even challenge whatever it was the person was pushing anyways, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're gonna have a tough time building meaningful connections by doing
No,
that.
you're
So
so right. You're so right. And there is, I think, our mutual connection, Kobe Hackalier, does a phenomenal job at this.
great example.
He does such a good job where he has no problem stating his opinion and perspective, but does it in a very respectful way that keeps the conversation open. And it's not just that this is my way because I said it's my way. And I have a lot of respect for that because I do also have a lot of respect for stating when you have an opposing opinion on something. I love being challenged on what I think I know personally. I say it all the time. I'm not so married to any of my ideas or beliefs that I'm unwilling to change them. I want my mind to be changed. I want to be a constant evolution in progress. But the only way for that to really happen is to be challenged on things. And so I do think that there is so much good that can come from it. But you are so right. You can challenge without being confrontational. People's defenses will go up real quick, and you wanna talk about leaving a lasting impression, that's a quick way to do it.
Sure is. Yeah,
I
sure is.
think
Well, and
that's
when you
great.
when you actually challenge someone, what you're really showing them is that you've really considered their point of view and you're asking questions about it, right? Like you're
Mhm.
really thinking about it. I think that's why Kobe is such a great example and so effective with his strategy, if you will, on LinkedIn, for example, is
Yeah.
because I mean, he's reading every word of what you've written. He's really considering
Yes.
it, right? And he's trying
Yes.
to like get to the bottom of what's the best thing for us to do in this situation? What do we do with this as mortgage professionals, right?
Yes.
And so that's why it's not confrontational, is because people understand the heart behind that. It's evident in the quality and the length of the comments that he leaves, even though they're challenging what it is that someone put out.
That right there. You can feel the intention, you can feel the heart behind it, and it keeps you open to wanting to have that. I can say this, he put a challenging comment on my post yesterday. He's a Yankees fan, I'm a Dodgers girl. How dare you, Kobe? How dare you? But again, I mean, there's such fun warmth behind it that at the end of the day, you're just like, "Oh, no, that's my homie." Right? And
Yeah.
I love those kinds of reactions
You
and
don't challenge someone
interactions.
you don't take seriously, right? If someone puts out something
You're
that's like not
right.
even you don't even bother. You just keep scrolling, you know?
You're
So
right.
yeah,
You're right. Consider it someone taking that investment in you and your words and treat it as such. I
that's right.
think that that is fabulous. I know that we're both headed to NBA annual. Where else? I know you've mentioned your LinkedIn. People should absolutely be following you there. Is that your preferred place that people should be connecting with you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great place, you know. I clear out my inbox every night. So if you send me a message, you will definitely hear from me. I do post, a couple of times a week. Hopefully those are helpful thoughts. We talk about
Yes.
anything from sales to marketing to the market, you name it. And then of course I just share a little bit about life too. I put out something recently. Took my wife and daughter to a baseball game and ended up catching a foul ball while they were in the ladies' room and got booed mercilessly by the crowd because there were all these kids around me. They just saw an adult taking a foul ball for himself. It's great. But so every once in a while you get a good story out of me like that if you follow me on LinkedIn. But yeah, other than that, visit mortgagechampions.com. There's plenty of places to get in touch with our team. Or you can just shoot me an email at jake@mortgagechampions.com. Would love to have a conversation with you there and jump on Zoom and have a cup of coffee.
Fabulous. Jake, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I will absolutely have you back anytime that you would like. This has been so insightful and such a delight. And I can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks. And let's rethink everything we know about networking. And
Let's
then
do it.
let's
I
take it
can't
to
wait
the
for
max.
That's right. So, LaDonna, thank you for having me. It's such an honor to have this conversation. I enjoy every conversation I get to have with you, and I'm looking forward to continuing at MBA Annual. And yeah, pick up a copy of the book October 15th. It's going to be well worth whatever it is that you have to spend. I think there's going to be discount codes and all the rest of it. But yeah, if you haven't already, pre-order, get a copy, and then send LaDonna or I a message telling us what you liked or challenging what we wrote in our
Yes.
chapter. We'll take it either way.
You know we're open to both, so we can't wait to hear your feedback. Jake, thank you again for being here, and I'll see you soon, my friend.